Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jared.
and we are the two gentlemen coming to you from lockdown again. Jared, how are you,
Yay.
mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Just like it's been the same. Yeah, there's not much really to say. I went on a walk with an old schoolmate of ours. He actually lives in the suburb, and I just had this sort of thought to message him and let's go for a walk. And we were out for like 2 hours, um, and we didn't break any records getting around, but it was just nice to have a different person to talk to. So. But that well, firstly, how are you? That how are you going?
Yeah, I'm good, Jared. No 2 hour walks for
That's
me,
good.
but I'm very good.
That's good, mate. That's good. Well, contacting that old mate of ours just sort of led me to think about something, and the reason I did it, um, essentially, I wanted to ask how you're feeling at the moment with all these current situation being locked down. Now, I'll ask you the question, but I'll just sort of elaborate. The reason I messaged that guy that we know, one of the reasons was that like I noticed myself getting a little flat. So um, I wasn't by any means sort of in a state of depression. But this lockdown I think is a bit harder this time around. I I I think I don't know if there's a lot of reasons, but I think it's got to do with things that you're relying on other people. The way that they're explaining the lockdown is you will get out once everyone's vaccinated. So you're kind of relying on other people to do their thing. So once you've done what you can do, it's a waiting game. And like I've said previously, I'm not financially burdened by it, and I'm in a really lucky position. And I feel a little bit uh, you know, not guilty, but I feel a little bit sort of, why should I be voicing my opinion? Because I've got money coming in, I've got my family here, I've got friends in the suburb that I can go for a walk with, I'm in a house that I'm happy with, I've got a backyard, like I've got everything that you need to live, and people aren't in that situation. So, but I guess I'm just saying to you, it's probably all right to say, I felt a little flat today, or I've been a bit flat for the last couple of days. And I suppose it's saying that to everyone else, if you are feeling that way, think of things outside the box a little bit. So yeah, I did message an old mate of ours, and we went for a walk. And we usually play basketball together. So on a weekly basis, we're in the same team. But obviously that's all stopped. So it's not like I haven't seen this guy in a long time. It's just, we just sort of go about our business, and then it's like this lockdown's going longer, so let's go for a walk and let's change it up a little bit. And like I said, I've started doing some training, just changing it up a little bit, just making Groundhog Day seem less like Groundhog Day, if you know what I mean. So I know I asked you the question probably about 3 hours ago because I babbled on, but that's essentially why I made the call to somebody, why I've started training, why I've done things. I mean, I feel like I'm getting out of that flatness and sort of feeling a lot better. And that's just the way I'm dealing with it. So are you feeling that, or have you got any tricks or anything that you're helping you get through this?
Thanks for sharing all that, Jared. I'm really glad to hear that you felt that you had some sort of issue, being the flatness, and that you actioned something to take care of that. So good on you, really. I mean, we talked about self-care a long, long time ago, and it's great to hear that you've identified that you're in need of some self-care and that you found a really positive solution. So good on you. For
Thanks,
me,
mate.
I haven't felt flat. I have felt physically, I suppose, far from my optimal condition. That's for sure. So when lockdown came about and gyms closed last year, I kind of let my gym membership lapse for a bit, and then I went back. And then once it expired after the COVID extension, I just thought, oh, look, you know what? I'll just take a break from the gym for a while. And I actually haven't been back. So that's probably been my biggest issue. But having said that, the Olympics being on now, we're just chatting about the decathlon and how amazing these athletes are. And it has really inspired me to get back in shape. I'm not out of
Yeah.
shape by any means, but I was watching some wrestling last night. So it was the men's gold medal match, 57 kilo category. So that's me.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
think I would have lost, immediately to these guys. I mean, obviously, they're Olympic athletes, but geez, what another level that the human body can go to. So yeah, look, I guess for me, I'm very easily inspired. So yeah, I haven't been in a slump at all, which is very fortunate. But my routine hasn't really changed much. You've lost basketball. Your work has changed circumstances a lot. Even though you're still making money, you're still changing the way you do your job. You're working from home as well. Yeah, so I've got the privilege of going to work. My routine work-wise hasn't changed. My kids were always at home anyway, or we're going out into public, of course, and traveling around the city using public transport. That's changed, but I'm lucky in my circumstances. So yeah, I'm not experiencing what a lot of other people are experiencing, but I definitely empathize with them, especially people who have lost their source of income.
Yeah, and look, saying what I said, it helps me, and I'm not saying by any means it's going to help the next person, because like we've just discussed, I'm not in any sort of hardship really. It's just being in my mind a little bit, and that's it, And I've been able to sort of point myself in the right direction. So I know it would take a lot for some people and maybe less for others, but I guess it's just recognizing that if you are feeling down, sometimes just instead of looking straight ahead, look up at the sky, or look, like just little things that will just sort of brighten your day a little bit, and for me, yeah, like I said, it's changing things up a little bit.
The other thing with the lockdown is because we don't have a definitive end date, it's really hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel, and you can get stuck in a moment, can't you? This isn't necessarily for lockdown, but in all of life where you just feel like this is never going to end.
Oh, definitely. Just quickly touching on lockdown. Yeah, of course. It's like I said, with the first one, there was an end date. It was like 2 weeks and we're done. This one's like, well, we need to depend on other things and other things need to happen and all this needs to work. So yeah, you can definitely get stuck in the moment. And, like you said, everything else in life, what you're doing at that time, you're doing it for a reason. And it's obviously important, it's important enough for you to devote your time to. If people put their blinkers on as such and, cover their peripheral, I don't ever say that word, peripheral vision. It's one of those words I can never get out. But if people,
Peripheral.
if that is, if that is like essentially, blocked, all you can see is that sort of straight line in front of you. And if you're in a hole, well, there's not far to see, is there? You've essentially got to dig your way out. But if you can't find the shovel or, find the direction to dig, you could be going in all sorts of directions. And I know that's very broad and, a wise man once said this, but it's not, it's just understanding that if you look up or you look in different directions, you may find the way out.
Yeah. Looking at your circumstance, you obviously believed there was a way out of the hole. Other people get to a point in their lives for whatever reason where they feel like this is it. There's no way out of here. What is it that keeps you going?
I'll state the obvious and say what keeps me going is making sure my family and being selfless and making sure my family are happy and loved. And like we discussed just then, if I'm off, it has a rippling effect through the family, and more so now when we are the four of us are the only ones, we're together. So there's no external forces. External forces is the wrong word. No external, influences that they can go to their grandparents' house or they can go to their auntie's house, or we can't do that at the moment. So if I'm off, that's what the girls and my wife have to deal with. And so that's a driving force about not getting too deep into that hole. So whilst I recognised I was flat, I didn't believe I was at any stage in danger of being too deep. It was almost like just the starting point of like, okay, this is I've recognized a bit of a difference. And I think I recognize it more too is because of, you know, the work I do. And, you know, I've recently done a mental health first aid sort of course where there was a lot in there, a lot to take in, but you know, that course has helped me recognize the starting point of, you know, something that could get, you know, go deep. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to be able to have done that. And, yeah, so that's where I'm at, and that's how I recognized it. And that's my driving force is my family, and making sure that they are feeling good at this point, or doing everything in my power to make sure they are feeling good at this time, and not, you know, not going down a hole themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that ability to dig yourself out of a hole is, I guess some people might call that resilience.
Yeah.
Just being able to have that perspective, to be able to step out for a moment and to realize, look, there is more to life than this hole. I may be in it now and it may be all I can see, but the sun will rise. One day it will pass over the top of this hole and I'll be able to see a little bit better and know what I need to do to get out of here. But I just think of the people who are struggling at the moment. And there was something in the media recently about a former actor who took his own life due to this whole situation. And it broke my heart, not because, you know, there's some fame about him, but just to think that someone was that deep into something that they felt that there was no other way out. And this isn't, I'm not criticizing his character or anything at all. I'm just saying that, you know, this is human nature, and it's so hard for us to maintain perspective sometimes. And I can imagine, I'm sure there's a listener out here now that who is in a situation who may not be able to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's hard to tell them that as well. It's hard to say that. I mean, it's easy for us on the outside, but when you're in it, you can become so blinded and not see, you know, past your nose, really.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a little trick. I just sort of came to me then, a little trick that I do about, I feel that I'm really good at listening to people and lending an ear when they need it. And if they ask for advice, you know, passing that on or talking them through a problem, right? So one thing that I've recognized as a weakness of myself is that, you know, call it a weakness or whatever you want to call it, is the fact that I am good at that, but I'm not good at giving myself advice. So one thing that I've just sort of started to really, and I think it comes with self-knowledge, I feel that I'm getting better at stepping outside and looking at it like if I was giving advice to somebody. So if that's you, and you're in the same sort of situation as me, just take a step out and explain to yourself. This is all internal in your own mind, but explain to yourself how you would explain it to somebody if they came to you with that same problem. That's helped me recently. You know, and that's part of how I've sort of, you know, pushed myself in the right direction.
Yep. I think a lot of people aren't very good friends to themselves. You know, you wouldn't speak to yourself, to someone else the way you speak to yourself. We're so hard on ourselves, aren't we?
True. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm personally trying to learn a bit more about perspective. It's, look, when you're a new parent, especially, I had a friend contact me who's a new mum, fairly new mum, and things haven't been, you know, easy. It never is. And I hope all new parents know this, that it's, you know, you see all the beautiful pictures where, you know, that you hire a photographer and you've got perfect lighting and everyone's all good. People put the good stuff on Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. But other than that, it's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of crying. It's a lot of misunderstanding your child. And if you don't have a supportive partner, it can be even more alienating and difficult. So it's really hard to see past that. You know, you might get to, you know, the kid might be close to a year old and you might feel, wow, I thought it would be over by now. I thought everything was going to be great. Then you hear about the terrible twos and you get through that. And then you get to 3 and you're like, I thought 2s was meant to be terrible. Yeah, 3 was meant to be easy, wasn't it? So you just feel like it's never ending. And then you realize, well, hang on a second, that's life. Life was never meant to be easy. If it were easy, we'd all be, we'd all have our private yachts, and I'd be living in a hot air balloon, touring the world.
Air balloon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's my dream, Jared. I never told you
No,
that.
I'm learning so much.
I mean, there are
Yeah.
some philosophies that say life is suffering, and just acknowledging that, look, this isn't going to be easy helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it just triggered me just thinking about, like the whole kids growing up and, when they're born the first year, you're like, once I get this year over, they'll be a bit more self-sufficient. They'll be able to do this and they'll be able to do that. And then you get to that, 1 or 18 months old, and you're like, oh, now they're starting to walk, then you got to deal with that problem. And then it's like, okay, wait till they're like four or something, and they're not going to start eating things or whatever, like throwing things down their throat. And then they get to 4, and then you're worried about, oh, what about school now? Now you're worried about them making it. So there's never, ever an end. Like there might be an end to, okay, they're not going to throw Lego down their throat, but there's another concern. And then once you get over that concern, then it's this concern. Like you're always going to be worried and you're always going to be thinking, oh, once they get to that age, it's going to be so much better, because that's your current problem, right? And once that current problem's, sorted, there's always something else that's going to be. So, you're never going to have that time. Once they turn 18, you got to. There's issues with that. They become. Then all this sort of stuff that you go through. And I remember, I think I said to a parent that sort of thing, and they had older kids, and they're like, oh, just wait till they get to 12, or wait till they get to they're 16, and wait till they don't want to deal with you, or don't want you in their life for 3 years while they're teenagers. Like, oh yeah, fair enough. I recognise that there's going to be more fun times. I say that fun times ahead.
Exactly. And you will wish that your kids were still eating crayons when they get to 18, with the problems that you'll be facing. Now, it reminds me of this situation I had with my kids. There's this video game that I was playing, and they started playing. It's a role-playing game. So if you don't know what a role-playing game is, basically it's one of those things where you start off with nothing. You build up an inventory, you get more powerful, you build up armor, experience, and all that sort of stuff. And my kids saw my inventory and they were like, whoa, like, look at all that stuff you've got. And, they started off with 3 hearts and they didn't even know what they were doing and they were dying. And I said, look, this is what real life is like. You start with nothing, you build experience, and the game actually gets harder, but you get better, that it becomes so easy. And that's the thing. Yeah. Life is only going to get harder. You think, oh yeah, once I do this, I'll be fine. It doesn't work like that. There's going to be a new problem. Cancer will get you or something. Yeah. There's always something to deal with, and we've still got to deal with death of all our loved ones, and including ourselves, preparing for our own deaths. So there's a lot to come. In a way, it's like we've already been in lockdown. Like you think about what you were talking about with your kids, looking at, okay, I'm going to get out. No, I'm not out yet. Not out yet. 18. No, I'm not out. I'm locked down forever, really. Yeah. And, that starts from the beginning. So, we've all been in a situation where it's like, you think things are going to change. They're going to become easy, but they don't.
No, it's all about building your inventory. I can't say that word. There's 2 words I have now to say. It's all about building the amount of stuff you have. That's how I'll run it. But yeah, it reminds me of my garage, with all my tools. But when I first started, I had a screwdriver and a small toolbox. And now, as you got jobs to do, you're like, oh, how am I going to cut that? I'm going to Bunnings and I'm going to go buy a saw or a circular saw or a power tool or a drill or whatever. And then all of a sudden, I'm at my age and like my family members said, oh, I need to hang this or I need to do that. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. I'll just grab all the tools I've got. And I remember thinking how many tools my dad had in the garage when I was growing up. And I'm thinking, oh, how do you get all that? And he's just like, yeah, you just accumulate them. And, you do. You do. Now I've got a garage full of tools that that I'll use. Well, I know that if I need to do anything around the house, that's that. I might use it 3 times a year, but I don't have to go to Bunnings and buy it anymore, I guess.
Yep. You built up your man points.
I have. So I just, like I said, I just start tools and rev engines down the garage like I'm some kind of manly man, but I'm not really. But
you have to have a humble attitude to know that you've got to start from somewhere. And yeah, look, it's just going to keep getting harder. Your bills are going to get higher as well, until you're ready to exit the game, until you've paid
Yeah.
off your house. And then it's just kind of like, you might even hit a decline from there. So there's so many things to consider. And yeah, that's what I figured out, with life. It just keeps getting harder, but I keep getting better. That's the thing. I can handle it
You
now.
adjust.
Yep.
You adjust.
Yep.
And you go, okay, well, I can handle the crayon eating child. Now I need to handle, the next stage of their development. And now then it's on the Play-Doh. And but I remember, actually, it just reminds me of a story. One of my youngest, we went over to a friend's house, and they had this big playroom where the kids went down and played, and so there was 4 kids all up, 2 of ours and 2 of theirs, and my youngest come up with a handful of Play-Doh, and she sort of had it sort of all over her hands and spread out, and the bloke's house that I went to said, "Oh, where's the rest of that stuff?" And she just opened her mouth, and it was full of Play-Doh.
That's cool.
And we laughed. We obviously fixed the situation, but when she went back, he's like, she had to pick the rarest color too. Like the white Play-Doh is really rare. And like ever since I see white Play-Doh, I always buy him a packet. I was just replenishing, from when my youngest was down there having a feed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Just didn't say anything, just opened her mouth. But anyway.
Jared, was there ever a time where you thought life was easy?
Not at the time. So at the time, you thought it was the hardest thing ever. Whatever challenges you were facing, you think back now, oh, I wish if I was back at school, how would I do this? And then, if I was leaving school, and gee, I would have paid my car loan off quicker. My first car, I got a tiny little loan, and essentially it was just to teach me how to pay. But I've had a loan since. Every time it just expands from that. It's like, oh, okay, well, I need another car, so I'll just get a bit more money. And then it's like, oh, I'll get a bit more. And then it's like, oh, I bought a house. And then, so essentially I haven't been, debt free in my adult life. Like I've always had something, that I've had to pay off, had to work for and pay off. And that just expanded, like I paid my first car off originally, but it's just, then you want something better, and then you sort of upgrade, and you've always got that sort of there around. Originally I used to think, paying $20 a week off a small loan was the biggest thing in the world,
Yeah.
Now if I had to pay $20 a week, I'd be like, oh man, I'd be making money rain. Like, but it just evolves, doesn't it? And you evolve with it, and you're always thinking, everything you're dealing with is a challenge. Whatever you're dealing with that day is a challenge. It's only some more than others.
What really sucks is, however old you are, that's the oldest you've ever been. So that's the only experience you've got. When you look at, because I remember thinking, oh, why did I think it was such a big deal when this was happening when I was a kid? And you're like, because that was like the biggest thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's it. You're at your max.
I remember when I was 19 or 20, maybe 19ish. And I think I might have taught, but I got offered to go over to France to play football. And at that time, it was the biggest decision of my life. The world wasn't as small as it was. I mean, we're talking 1998, 1999, and going to a certain part of the world that I've never been to, and playing a sport that I know. But just talking about my car, I said to my coach, who was sort of acting as my manager, and said, oh, what about my car loan? And he's like, mate, it's a $2,000 car loan. What are you talking about? You're going to make a lot more money than that. Don't worry about it. It's just like, but this is the biggest problem in my life at the moment, is making sure that I pay my $20 a week off that. And he's like, why are you even mentioning it? Like, I'll pay it. Like, I don't care. Like, so you know what I mean? It was just this like, sort of like, that was my biggest thing at the time. I
Yeah,
guess, and that's just reiterating what we've been talking about.
yeah, yeah. My youngest son, so my 6-year-old, was playing this game, and you can, as with a lot of games these days, you can buy items in the game with real money.
Yeah.
And we let him control his own money. He's got birthday money. He's got, he's actually made money from investments as well as a smart kid. But so he spent some on this game. He spent a lot of money actually, and then he did something that he wasn't happy with, and he said the game ruined his life. It was pretty
Wow.
dramatic. Yeah, yeah. This was
Yeah.
actually not that long ago, like probably a month ago. But
Yeah.
I feel like he learned a huge lesson from it. Firstly, that he can control himself, so he can self-regulate. He can go, wait, I've had too much. This is actually not good for me anymore. It's not serving me. And secondly, I've got the power to step away. So he did. And he hasn't played it since. He asked me to delete it from the computer, which I will do. I think that's really good for him. But it was such a huge deal, to say that it ruined his life. And good on him for identifying that.
That's quite a lesson. That is, and it's a life lesson. It's they don't teach that stuff. You've got to learn that yourself. So I mean, learning that at 6 years old is understanding and actually saying, oh, I need to get rid of this off the computer. It's almost like he's recognizing that this is a problem. What is, it's not almost, it is. It's him recognizing this is a problem, and that's a life lesson that your young fella's learned pretty early, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, having said all that, with your 40-year-old wisdom, looking back at your 18, 19-year-old self with your car, kind of having a bit of a laugh about it, laughing at this young child, or you were a child, I guess, even though legally you were an adult, laughing about a $2,000 loan that you were paying off $20 a week. How do you think your 80-year-old self is going to look back at your 40-year-old self and your concerns today?
Well, hopefully I don't forget myself by 80, but yeah, I would imagine that at that age, and if I'm still going well, like obviously you've got other concerns at that age. You start thinking about, well, my heart rate needs to stay below this level, my blood pressure needs to stay below this level, all this sort of fun stuff that you need to think about as you get older. So apart from all the health stuff that you're thinking of at that time, I mean, I would look back at myself now, but I think right now, I think, and again, it's the same. I think what I'm dealing with is the hardest thing I'm dealing with. It's paying all the bills and making sure the family is happy. Going through regular life. I mean, I don't think by the time you get to a fair age and you may have hopefully paid off a house, or you got yourself some assets or whatever. I don't know if you'd look back at this time and go, oh, that was you had nothing to worry about. Like, I think this time is pretty stressful for people. This age, I think it's called midlife crisis for a reason, and I think that sort of midlife situation can be stressful. There's a lot of changes going on, and like just for me, losing not the ability, but losing the drive, again, probably the wrong word, to keep going with sport. Like my body's getting sore, so I can't play rugby much anymore at all. and like I'm still doing stuff, so my life is shifting to, okay, what are my girls going to do? So I'm going to be that, that dad who, whatever they want to do, I'll follow. And so that my life is shifting there to support them. So yeah, look, this is a big time in everyone's life. I happen to be this age when this is happening. People do it younger. Sometimes people have kids younger and go through this at a younger age, but I can definitely see that the 80-year-old me would probably, hopefully, reflect on this time and go, yeah, it was a hard time, but who knows? Like I said, when I was 19, it was the biggest thing in the world to pay off that car. But right now I'm looking at it going, well, mate, that's $2,000. Who cares?
Yeah. Can we just do a little exercise, Jared? Can you picture yourself as an old man, maybe even on your deathbed, looking back at Jared right now? Would you be happy with the trajectory you're taking? Would you say, yeah, mate, keep going, you're on track?
It's a hard one, because I'm going to say yes. I would say that keep going, you're on track. I'm happy where I'm at. and there isn't anywhere that I feel is lacking at the moment. But again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. So 80-year-old me or 180-year-old me, who knows what the world's going to be end up, when it comes to keeping people going. But yeah, like I don't know, I don't know. But right now, if I had to answer that, yeah, I'd be happy where I'm going. There's no shortfalls that I can see.
Good on you, Jared. That's really nice to hear. I feel like
thank you.
of all the people to answer to, that's probably the person that we need to answer to most. That old self of ours, our true self, hopefully, on our deathbed. I want to meet that person. I want to be able to look that person in the eye and go, hey, I did it. We did it. We're here. We made it. I don't want to go, yeah, I gave in. I'm so sorry. I gave up. I got scared. So I didn't chase that dream that we had. I'm really, really sorry. And they'll go, why? Why didn't you do it? You had all the opportunities. Why didn't you have a go? Oh, well, I was worried that I needed to do this instead, or society was going this way. And, I don't know, my friends influenced me to do this. I don't want to have that conversation with myself. I won't be able to look myself in the eye.
Imagine how stupid you'd feel doing that. Like, there was, like going back to my issue. I didn't go to France because I had a car loan. Like, imagine, well, what? You could have set yourself up with not that I'm saying that was the reason I didn't go, but if that was the only excuse, like imagine telling the old self that, like even telling me that at this age as a 19-year-old, I'd be like, really? Just reminds me of the scene from Back to the Future when old Biff gets in the car, the time machine from, I don't even know what year it was. I think we've already passed that year. But then comes back to 1950s or something and sees the young Biff and calls him butthead and, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty cool scene that you could probably picture.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I wish I could speak to my young self, but I feel like I can speak to my current self from a higher level now. I feel like I'm in touch with that better person, inside me, the true self, whatever you want to call it, that higher consciousness. I can communicate with that now. And there's certainly no way I want to let that down. I really feel that's the only thing I answer to, and I owe that.
Yeah, I mean that's a good level or gauge essentially, and it's something that I'm thinking about now. You've just brought it up, and the fact that if you had to explain it to an old and wise version of yourself, you want to be able to justify your decisions.
Yep. And I don't think fear is a good enough justification. For me, my biggest thing in life was to be a writer, and I write. I've never been paid for it, but I'm a writer the way I see it. And if I were to tell my future self, oh look, I gave up on that dream purely because I needed a real job. I remember in my 30s, I said to Erica, oh look, maybe I should just chuck it in and go back to uni, get another qualification, and just make some money for the family. It's probably, I've been doing this for a while now. And she actually, being the amazing person she is, she said, and what kind of example would that set for the kids? Like most people at that point would say, yeah, you're right. We should probably start focusing on our material situation and try to improve ourselves there. But she said, no, like essentially, die on your shield. This is inside you. You've got to do it. This is who you are. Go for it. And that's the way I feel. I'm going out of my shield, man. And I guess in terms of lockdown and perspective, when you've got that long-term perspective, when you've got that vision of you on the deathbed, it really just alleviates all this tension, I feel, for me at least. I don't want to get preachy and tell other people how they should see their lives, but I just want to share what's been helpful for me, that's all. And looking at things on a longer time frame, they say, if in doubt, zoom out. And that's what I do. I've zoomed out and thought, you know what, this has been a long, long path, but I'm still here. I've still got my energy. I'm alive. What more can I really want? And I'm really, really healthy. So for anyone who's finding it hard at the moment, wondering if there is a way out, there is a way out. It's just a natural process of life. The earth goes through cycles, life goes through cycles, things take time. And unfortunately, we're in, I guess, a bit of a bear market at the moment. but things will change. Things will change, and it just takes time. And if we support each other, then we can make that time a little bit easier, a little bit more bearable.
Everything he said. I agree. I agree totally. And as we've sort of said, let's just concentrate on getting our personal personally. Let's just concentrate on getting little wins. We're not going to be able to fly to another country and go on a holiday at this point in time, but that's not a realistic level to be thinking at the moment. So for me, going out and trying new things under the restrictions and still being able to do those new things are my trips to another country at the moment. And that's the way I'm looking at things. And as things ease and as people start to come out of the hibernation that we've been put in, those goalposts will move, and then it'll be okay. We can go out to a restaurant and have something to eat. And the next thing is, we can actually go to, we can go see our relatives in another state and things like that. So, yes, we can't go to do that right now, but take the little wins as big wins at the moment, and that'll help you with give you a bit of a positive outlook on things.
Yeah, good on you, Jared. Look, good luck with the rest of lockdown. I'll be here for you, mate. As you know, this has definitely made it more bearable for me. And I just want to say to my friends in the Netherlands, this one's for you.
That's cool. No, thank you, mate. Thank you for thank you for that. And same goes for you. And this has actually this sort of this interaction has made a massive difference. It's one of those things that if we didn't know that we could have, but now I have it, I don't really want to let it go. So it's become quite a I'm not, well, let's just say lack of bear is a necessity. It's it's definitely needed, this sort of interaction. So recording this sometimes is cleansing or beneficial for the people recording it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Jared, thanks for reconnecting with me. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, mate. See ya.